welcome back. It's week 22 conference championship round of the playoffs. It's picking winners with the Cheezeman, NFL Survivor. We also give you help on DFS plays. We give you our picks at the end of the video, our top 5. Wait till you see how we did last week. I'll just shoot with the positive stuff. The bonus picks went 5-0. 5-0. Not going to say anything about the top 5. So we'll see those at the end of the video. We'll also give you our picks at the end of the video. In the meantime, let's check some stuff out. How did you do in Survivor? Our Survivor pools are still going on through the Super Bowl. You can see, had I been in it, Survivor, my play would have been San Francisco. We would have won. And why I say woulda, because here's our big pool, 1,954 entries, 5 people are left. I finished in 7th, the tie for 7th. I went out a little bit earlier a couple weeks ago. But you can see we have 5 people left. Nobody lost last week. But you know what? Let's take a look at this more in depth. That's what we're here for mainly as Survivor, right? So take a look. Here's our final 5 comparison. I just list them as team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I put us, meaning me or whatever, at the bottom. And the teams that we have left. So you can see one team has an advantage because they have 3 of the 4 teams. Everybody else has 2 of them. Most everybody has Kansas City. Team 4 kind of made an unfortunate fatal error. You know, you never know how things are going to go. I'm sure they were thinking maybe Buffalo was going to be the team to get through and maybe make it to the Super Bowl or what have you. But they're down to just Philadelphia and San Francisco, which means they have a pick this week and they're done. So what they need to have happen is whoever they pick, Philly or San Francisco, let's say they pick Philly because they're the favorite. Philly wins, they make it to next week, and they're going to have to root for Philly to win the Super Bowl and nobody to have them in order to tie. On the other teams, let's take a look at the strategy real quick. I mean, what would you do here? What would you do, Team 5? You know, think about it. If you're in that spot, normally what you do is you take Philadelphia, hope they win, and now it doesn't matter what happens in the AFC, you'll get that team in the Super Bowl, right? Because right now, Cincinnati is the favorite. But, you know, if Patrick Mahomes is fully healthy, I think Kansas City is still the top Super Bowl odds pick to win it. So that game's really up in the air. But with Holmes with that ankle, I think people are definitely fearful. Right now, the betting trends are showing it's Cincinnati and Philadelphia. So let's take a look. Let's just play this out a bit. You can see here, if we go by the current betting trends, which means Cincinnati and Philadelphia would win, well then Team 1 would lose this week and they would be out. Team 2 would take Philadelphia. And then if Cincinnati beat Kansas City, they'd be out for the Super Bowl. They'd have Philly. They'd be into the next round. Team 3, same thing as Team 1. Team 4 would take Philadelphia and then have no team in the Super Bowl. Team 5 would probably take Philadelphia, and then they would have Cincinnati left for the Super Bowl. And then us, we would take Philadelphia and have nobody left for the Super Bowl. Then what happens is teams that have Philadelphia can still chop the pot, right, if Philadelphia goes on to beat Cincinnati. That's probably where I'm leaning. Now, here's the other one. Let's say Kansas City could pull it off, right? Let's say Kansas City come out and win the game. Well, then if you don't play Kansas City this week, if you go with your NFC team, so for example, each team goes San Francisco and Philadelphia, and then they would have Kansas City available to them next week in the Super Bowl, right? All 4 of them would. Team 4 would have no team. And then Team 5, what do? I mean, do they have the stuff to go ahead and take Kansas City over Cincinnati this week? Or would they pick Cincinnati? Which means you probably should just go with Philadelphia and then you're going to take Kansas City or Cincinnati. You'd end up with Kansas City as well and everybody's going to chop the pot. So his advantage goes away. He's the one who's got to think through this a little more strategically. Then on the other hand, what if we were to take Kansas City this week? What if everybody said Mahomes is totally healthy and they turn over and become the favorite again, so a lot of people end up going on KC's side. Either the San Francisco side or the Philly side would end up having a couple teams in the Super Bowl, and the other teams would not. And they'd be rooting for Kansas City to win it all. And on the other side, Team 5 would have, you know, some different options there. But and at the end of the day, I think what I would do, if I was in this position, I would play Philadelphia. Because I believe Philadelphia has what it takes to win the whole thing. Beginning of the year, I said Buffalo, Philadelphia, and I really believe Philadelphia could win the Super Bowl. And this started last year. You guys know I was on Philadelphia. Hurts has just done tremendously well. His shoulder seems okay. If he runs like he normally does, I think Philadelphia has an advantage, will win this thing. So if that's the case, I'm going to take Philadelphia, advance this week, so I'm into the Super Bowl round, and then I'm going to root for Philadelphia to beat whoever they're playing and hopefully chop. Hopefully I get a cut, right? The only way I couldn't is if Team 5 selected KC or Cincinnati this week, that team won, and then they would have Philadelphia in the Super Bowl, and then if Philadelphia won, they would win it all to themselves. I wouldn't have a team in the Super Bowl. On the other side, they could take Philadelphia this week too, and then they get Kansas City or Cincinnati in the Super Bowl, and then if Kansas City or Cincinnati, that team that they chose, won the Super Bowl, they would win. My gut is telling me Philadelphia's going to win it, so I would chop with them, but that's how we would do it. Okay, let's get the mid-year pool. I've spent too much time on this, but it is Survivor Strategy. It's what we're here for, right? All right, the mid-year pool. This is the weirdest thing. We had 210 entries, and I believe this started week 9, I want to say. Now, the one thing in this pool is if you used a team, you can only use a team once, and if you used them at any point. So, for example, if you used Philadelphia in week 10, you're done. You can't use them in the playoffs and Super Bowl. You're going to see a lot of teams here made some critical errors. However, they're the ones who are surviving and lasting. Take a look at this. We had 4 teams go out last week. We're down to 4 remaining. And here's the teams that each one has left. So out of the 4 teams remaining, Team 1 has Philadelphia. Team 2 has no teams left. They used them all during the regular season. So they're done. They're not going to win. They can't win. Team 3 and 4 has San Francisco. So what happens this week is if Philadelphia wins, Team 1 wins the pool. We don't even get to the Super Bowl. If San Francisco wins, Teams 3 and 4 chop up the pot, and it doesn't even get to the Super Bowl. So when I play this pool, I'm usually thinking we're going through the Super Bowl. So I'm not going to use those 2 teams that I need for the conference championship round, the Super Bowl. I'm going to have 2 teams left right here. But here's the thing. I'm out. These guys are still in. They're not even going to get to the Super Bowl. Somebody's going to win this thing. So it just goes to show maybe the strategy is to take your better teams early and not worry about it. Just get it done and go for it. Get through a couple rounds of the playoffs and you're good to go. That's obviously what happened this year. Now, in previous years, that's not happened. Here's our wild card results for the playoffs so far. 4-2 dogs, and this has been a dog year and an under year. And wild card rounds usually an under round, but the overs went 5-1. We started off with 5 straight overs, and look what's happened. Then we had an under, and then bam, division round, 4 unders. We had 5 straight unders now. 5 overs, now we had 5 unders in a row. Divisional results, 2-2 to the dogs, 4-0 to the unders. And, you know, I always love this when people tell me how much money they won betting and stuff. And I'm like, we saw last week the current betting trends. Everyone was hammering the overs. Everybody, the betting public was all over the overs in the 60s and 70s percentiles. Fortunately for me, I was on 2 of the unders, so I sort of hedged a little bit and didn't do so badly. But I know the public got reamed last week because they were all over the overs and it all went under, which is crazy. Anyways, the conference playoffs, here's our schedule. Early, we got San Francisco at Philly, 2.5, 46. Philly's a favorite. And then late, right now, it's 147. Cincinnati's become the favorite, and I think that's due to, well, it could be 2 things. One is obviously Mahomes' ankle. I think that swayed people. This started off as Kansas City being a slight favorite. The other is, you know, Cincinnati's beaten Kansas City 3 straight. Thanks to JohnSwire.com, our music. Thanks to CookieGroove.com, our sponsor. Please like us and subscribe to us. Cookie Groove golf grips, check them out. They're out there for sale. Please like and subscribe to us. It really helps us. All right, let's get into a bit of analytics, and then we'll get into who's in play this week. But real quick, I know the screen looks a little daunting, but let's get into it. Over, under analytics. So this year, as you can see, the OU is 118 and 149 in the regular season. It only hit 44% to the over, 56% the under, which is way out of line. Normally, it's really right between 50-50, you know, somewhere right in there. You can see our regular season OU average is 44.07, points per game 43.71. Over the past 5 years, both those numbers were down 2 points or more. So it was a really down year for scoring. Now, in the wild card round, you could see this year, it was 44.5, the OU average in that wild card round, and our points per game skyrocketed to 55.16, which is way higher than normal. So the OU average was way lower than normal, and the points per game was way higher than normal. Obviously, we had 5-1 to the over. And then last week, what happened? We just got slapped in the head. Anybody who likes overs. You see the divisional round, 48.63 was the average, which is more along the lines of normal. But we only averaged 40 points a game. We went 0-4. Look at the last 5 years there in each divisional round. The wild card, you can see the OU average in points per game in the 46 area, and it's 35% the over. It's mostly an under round. Divisional, 48 and 48, and it's 50% to the over. And usually divisional is a little higher than 50% historically. Conference round, you can see the OU average up at 50, but our scoring's up at 52.90, 6-4 to the over last 5 years. Super Bowl, you can see 52 points on the OU average, but the points per game in the Super Bowl is only 44.80. So they're 1-4 to the over the last 5. Now the conference round overall, this goes back like 17 years. The OU average is at 47.47, the points per game at 48.53. This week our OU average is at 46.25 for the 2 games. So it's down from normal. It's down from normal. Normally you can see it's at 48.28 in the last 5 years, and overall at 47.47. So how does that set up? Here's our conference playoffs for the last 4 years. Take a look at this. You can see last year we had 2 dogs, 2 unders. Both Cincinnati and KC were there, as well as San Francisco. 3 of those teams are back again. 2020, we had a major split. 2019, you can see there were 2 favorites and 2 overs. And both Kansas City and San Francisco were in that one. So overall here you see 5 dogs, 3 favorites, 5 overs, 3 unders. Now, some things to tell you. This year, our OU total is 93.5. 93.5, that's below 100. In years where the OU total in the conference round is less than 100, here's what's happened. 4 times the games were over and over. 1 time the game was over and a push, so no unders yet. 7 times we had 1 over and 1 under, and then only 1 time did we have 2 unders. Only 1 time when the OU total was below 100 for the conference round did we have 2 unders. So it kind of trends towards we should have at least 1 over and 1 under. All right, and then overall you can see 12 times we've had at least 1 over. The total record for that group of games is 16-9-1 to the over, which is 64% to the over. That's huge. It's a huge number. It tells you our OU total is fairly low, and we should see at least 1 over, maybe 2. On the other hand, this has been a down year, an under year for scoring, right? And last week we saw the games only averaged like 40 points a game. So could we see that again in the conference championship games? You never know. You never know. All right, rematches. We talked about rematches. Overall, team winning the regular season game wins a playoff game 65% of the time, 52% against the spread. Now, here's something interesting. In the conference round, a rematch from the regular season, the team who won the regular season is 10-3 in the conference round. 10-3, much higher than 65%. And Cincinnati beat Kansas City 27-24 in the regular season this year. We're going to look at that more in depth in a bit. Here you can also see conference championship game rematches. We've only had 1 in the past 17 years. You can see here, 2012, Baltimore went to New England, basically 7-49. New England beat them 23-20, so it was a dog and under. The very next year, Baltimore played New England again, same basic numbers. This time, Baltimore beats them with another dog and an under. Last year, obviously, our conference championship game was these 2 teams, Cincinnati and Kansas City. It was Kansas City 54.5. This year, it's down at 47. I think that's why so many people are on the over in this game. We do believe both teams will continue to score in the 20s or higher, up around 27. Maybe 27-24 again, but we're only at 47 on the OU. All right, let's take a look at who's in play this week, just ranking our plays for Survivor. The number 1 play I put is Philadelphia, number 2, Cincinnati. And, I'm sure a lot of people, if Mahomes is declared fully healthy, may flop over to KC. We may see that line flip that direction. But let's take a look at Philly, San Francisco more in depth now. You can see here, lots of blue on that screen. Both these teams are in the top 10 in almost every category. But Philly's 7-2 at home, winning 28-17 in those games, with Hurts starting their 15-1. That's the key. Jalen Hurts, when Philly can have him run the football like he does, they dominate games. He's 15-1. Their defense is very good too. San Francisco's won 12 straight, 9-1 in the last 10 against the spread, and they're winning by 30-15 in that stretch, just crushing teams. Now, we've had a rookie quarterback in conference championship games 6 times. In the last 30 or 40 years. 6 times. And Brock Purdy's obviously a rookie. All right. They're 0-6. The rookies are 0-6, and they've been outscored 25-12. And the stat lines on those rookie games, none of them were any good. I think there was 1. It might have been Roethlisberger. Philly's in the top 10 everything except rushing defense. Okay. Now, Jordan Davis is playing, Their rushing defense they were in the top 10 and started scaling back when Davis was out of the lineup for those 5-6 games or what have you. He is back and playing, but last week the Giants had 118 yards rushing. Their number 4 rushing offense, though, San Francisco's number 7. So kind of similar, except the Giants and Danny Jones can run the football. Brock Purdy hasn't really run the football at all. I think last week he did run for maybe 10 to 15 yards, somewhere in there. So it's strategic and helpful to the team, but it's not like Danny Jones where he's taken off and there's set running plays for Jones. So it's a little bit different of a rushing style, and probably see Philly keep him a bit in check here. Both teams are among the top 3 in turnover differential. Both teams are among the top 3 in turnover differential, so they get a lot of takeaways. They don't have a lot of giveaways. But that's going to be the key to the game right here. I mean, turnovers are always a key come deep in the playoffs, and you've got Brock Purdy, a rookie quarterback, facing a really good defense. My gut says Philly's going to win this turnover battle and win the game. Kansas City's won 6 of 7, 11 of 12. The only loss was to Cincinnati. And you can see Cincy, crushed them in yards, and Kansas City had the turnover that game. We're going to look more at the comparisons in a bit here, all right? But in the meantime, the Chiefs have scored 27 or more points in 5 of their 9 games at home, but they only hit 30 once this year. In each of the past 3 seasons with Mahomes, they hit 30 at least 5 times in each season. Actually, it's 5 exactly in each of those seasons. So I've been saying all year, they're not as good offensively. They're not as explosive without Tyreek Hill. I don't think they're as good an offense. I do think their running game is pretty good, maybe better than the past, but they're just not as explosive offensively. That's something to watch out for, especially with Mahomes with that ankle, because in the playoffs, he tends to rush a little bit more and make some key plays with his legs. I don't know if he'll be doing that this week. That could be a huge factor. Now, Cincinnati's won 10 straight by a score of 28-19. Pretty good. 21-5 against the spread. That's insane. But, here's the key for Cincinnati. Take a look at that. Cincinnati against the AFC North is 4-3, winning 21.5-20 on average. But against everybody else, they're 9-1, winning 31.5-20. Or 30.5-20, okay? So, and think about it. When I sit there and go, which division is the most physical in football? Off the top of my head, I'm probably going to go AFC North. You got Pittsburgh with TJ Watt, Cleveland, Myles Garrett, Baltimore, Roquan Smith. All those teams run the ball and have big physical lines. You're going to get pounded. It's just a physical game. And then since he plays all the other teams, and there's not that physicality that they face in those games, and they do very well, right? Let's look deeper into this, though. Kansas City versus Cincinnati. Here's the last 3 games they played with Mahomes versus Burrow. You see on the left there, game 1 was Cincinnati win 34-31. That was a Jamar Chase breakout game. Game 2 and game 3 are both 27-24. Now, on the right, you can see we have our box score comparison. So I took key items, key metrics, key data points, and then I showed in game 1, 2, or 3 who won those different categories. So you can see rush yards. Kansas City actually won 2 out of the 3, which is kind of surprising. Usually the rush team with more rushing yards wins a game. Passing yards, though, Cincinnati won all 3. So that's interesting, because usually you think of Mahomes as winning that portion of almost every game. Total yards, Cincinnati 2 out of 3. Less turnovers. This is a big one. Cincinnati 2-0-1. Chiefs cannot commit turnovers if they're going to win this thing. Time of possession, Cincinnati 2 out of 3. Third or fourth down efficiency, Kansas City won both of those, 2 out of 3 on that one. And then sacks, this one is huge because Cincinnati has not had a very good offensive line in Burrow's time there, yet Cincinnati's won the sack battle 2 out of the 3 games, including this year. And Cincinnati's offensive line has been improved from last year, but they're no great shakes, and of course they have injuries again coming into this game. Going a little further, though, you could see Mahomes versus Burrow. Now, Mahomes beat him in game 2 in terms of passing yards. In that game, Cincinnati had like 40 yards and sacks. So that comes off the passing yardage total. And so Cincinnati actually had more yards passing that game. But you can see there, Burrow has held his own. Cincinnati's defense, Lou Anarumo, this guy is very, very good. Probably one of the best defensive coordinators in the entire league. And he doesn't stop you. He doesn't stop Mahomes. But he stifles him a bit, right? He keeps it in check where Mahomes isn't going crazy, throwing for 330 or 370 like he did against Buffalo. and beating them. Now you can see there, Kansas City, they've had 0 100-yard rushers or receivers in any of the 3 games. In fact, Travis Kelce getting 95 yards in game 2 was as close as they've gotten. Cincinnati, on the other hand, game 1, Chase had 266 yards catching and 3 touchdowns that game. Game 2, T. Higgins had 103 yards. Game 3, Mixon didn't play. Samaje Perine had 106 yards rushing. Chase was at 97. Burrow rushing yards, 10, 25, and 46. Now those last 2 were both overs. And I'll be taking the Joe Burrow rushing yards again to the over. This guy can run the football. Don't kid yourself. He's not a stand back there like Tom Brady. He was a great running quarterback in college. He just doesn't do it all the time because he doesn't need to. He's so good keeping his eyes downfield and finding open guys he doesn't have to. But when he takes off, he sees the field well and gets good yardage. Ooh, some more conference over-under info data. Here we go. When the home favorite wins and covers against the spread, the over is 12-1. It hits 92% of the time, okay? So this week you got Philly at -2.5. If you're taking Philly to win and cover, you know, this stat says take the over. Interesting, because I'm going Philly in the under. Maybe I should rethink that. Now, the away favorite, home dog or away dog, wins and covers against spread. The over is only 8-11. Obviously, we have Cincinnati in that situation. But then here, when away favorite wins and covers against the spread in all playoff games, the over is 0-10. And we had it earlier this year. Dallas beats Tampa Bay 31-14. Dallas was a favorite away. They win, they cover, and that game went under. We had 4 missed extra points. It was like some divine intervention keeping that thing under, keeping this stat and trend under, right? So this week at Cincinnati, I'm going to be taking the over. I don't know. Maybe we should rethink it and take the under based on this information, but we'll see. It doesn't always go the way that the trend goes, right? Here's a couple other things in terms of upsets in the conference round. Dogs are only 10-22 straight up, 32%. That's kind of similar to where they are in the regular season. But here, look at this. Last 5 years, they're 5-5. The Dogs are 5-5. Now, some of these games, like this year, Philly's only 2.5. Cincinnati's only 1. So it's not like a major upset. It's an upset at this level, but it's not huge, right? The teams are considered very close. Teams rushing more win 75% of the time. That holds true in conference round, 75% exactly. Last year they went 2-0. Last 5 years they've gone 8-2. Current betting trends. Right now we've got 61% on Philly, 52% on the under in that game. And then in the Kansas City-Cincinnati game, 78% currently are in Cincinnati. I think that has a lot to do with the fact that Mahomes is hurting. But I could be wrong. It could be a lot of people going, Cincy's beat him 3 straight, I'm on Cincy. 76% on the over. And I'm thinking because we've seen all 3 games go over, hit 51 points or higher, and now we're down at 47, right? But, you know, Cincinnati's defense continues to improve, and if Mahomes doesn't have his mobility, that could affect things for sure. In the meantime, here's what I'm thinking of doing. I'm thinking of joining the public. And that's not always a good idea. Let's go take a look at last week. Cheezeman top 5 plays in the divisional playoffs. You can see the top 5. Oh my God, 1-4. What are you doing to me? I hope you went reverse Cheezeman there, but look at the bonus. We went 5-0. Maybe we should have reversed those, huh? Sometimes my top 5 should be the bottom 5. Gosh darn it. Anyways, you can see in the bonus round, we had Cincinnati under, Philly first quarter, Philly first half, Jacksonville plus 8.5. Remember we talked about that last week in divisional round? Teams getting 8.5 and 9 points. The favorites were 1-9 in those games, so we went with the points in Jacksonville. It's now 1-10. Jacksonville win it. San Francisco -4. It just, to me, it seemed easy. I just never bought into the Cowboys this year as being a potential Super Bowl team, so that was good. But up top, you can see we won Cincinnati with the 5.5, but San Francisco over killed me. I really thought they would have more scoring in that game. I thought the Niners would, you know, what Dallas did was they really pressed up on San Francisco. San Francisco, especially with Purdy, likes to get the ball in Debo's hands or McCaffrey's hands or even Ray McLeod, and they're fairly close to the line of scrimmage, right? Sometimes behind line of scrimmage on screens or quick passes or a couple yards in, and then let those guys get in the open field and do their stuff, right? And Dallas just pressed up and keyed on that and didn't let them get away with anything in that game. What we really needed to see Purdy do was hit with a couple of 15, 20, 25-yard passes downfield to loosen that up a bit, and it never happened. So San Francisco was held in check. And on the other side, you know, the Niners have the #1 defensive football. I hate how fans and people are just riding Dak Prescott. Did he play great? No, but he didn't play awful. You're going against the top defense. It's a competition. That's what it is. And San Francisco is simply better than Dallas again. The San Francisco over killed us. And then the Giants, oh my God, you know, I've been a Philly guy. Last 2 years I've been on Philly. Y'all know this. And I picked Philly to get the Super Bowl this year, and I'm picking them to win now at this point. Why was I not on Philly? I'll tell you why. Because I was a little leery of Jalen Hurts' shoulder, and I wasn't sure they were going to let him run like he usually does. So anyways, they just smoked the Giants. Here's my top 5 plays this week. Although you might be looking at it and going, hey, Cheezeman, I'm going reverse Cheezeman on your top 5. I'm going to play with you on the bonus ones because that's what worked last week. We're going to stick with Philly first quarter, Philly first half. They've been the best team in the league all year long in the first quarter and the first half. I expect them to run out at home, get a lead, and at least win both of those pieces. And then Philly -1.5 for the game. We're going to take that. Philly under 46.5. We're going to go under in this one. I do think it'll be primarily a defensive battle. I don't think Purdy's going to have huge success. I think if he only could score 19 against Dallas, he's probably going to have trouble scoring 20 against Philly. Cincinnati -1, I'm going to take them. I'm going to take the over in that game like everyone's thinking. They've been 27-24 the last few. Why not? Bonus picks, I love Joe Burrow rush yards over 17.5. I think that's a great play. Cincinnati over 2.5 team touchdowns. I like this because they've done it the last 3 times they've played Kansas City. So I feel like that one should happen again. Joe Mixon rushing yards over 58.5. Now, last year he did it against the Chiefs. Early in the year, Perrine, he played the whole game and Mixon didn't play. He had over 100 yards rushing. So I feel like Mixon could do that again. Kansas City, Cincinnati, both teams have scored 20-plus points. You get decent odds on it. And so I like that one because both teams have done that in all 3 meetings in the last 3. Purdy over 0.5 interceptions. That means it's Purdy to throw a pick. You know, the rookie quarterbacks in the conference championship games, and not all of them have been stellar quarterbacks, okay? But they've all thrown interceptions. So I'm just going along with that trend. A.J. Brown over 69 yards. I put a question mark there. But I think what happens, San Francisco has given up 9 100-yard receivers this year. And a lot of times it comes from the slot. The slot's where they struggle the most. I think they'll move A.J. Brown enough, put him in the slot. I think he'll get over his 70 yards. He didn't last week, though, but they didn't need him to. This week I have a feeling they may need him more. And they want your big guys to make big plays, and I think he will. All right, guys, looking at my picks in the prime. Those are my picks, top 5 and bonus. Hopefully we do well and get you something this week. But in the meantime, my picks in the primary poll, I'm going with Philadelphia. Kansas City loses. I won't have a Super Bowl team, but I'll root for Philadelphia to win it all. Even if Kansas City gets there, I'll be able to take them. But I don't think Philadelphia's going to beat them. So anyways, that's our pick in the primary poll. Really appreciate you being here. Thanks to johnswire.com, thanks to Groove.com. Please like and subscribe to us. This has been week number 21, picking winners at the Cheezeman. Good luck, and we hope you survive.